Welcome everyone to Council Room 2021. In this panel, we are going to discuss the streaming series from Star Wars, The Mandalorian. I have a great panel, which I'll have them introduce each other to you all in a moment. My name is Don Kaiser. I will be your moderator for this panel. Just a little story about me and Star Wars. I've been a Star Wars fan since the very first one. My story was I was a sophomore year in college back when A New Hope, Episode 6, then of course just called Star Wars, came out. A friend of mine who was a high school friend, I had gone home for the summer and said, "Hey, there's a new science fiction movie out. Let's go see it." And this, of course, was before it had made a big splash because it literally had just come out. You remember it came out in May. And we went to I was from the suburbs of Chicago. We went to one of the great big, Super CinemaScope, 70mm theaters, right? We went to a showing during the middle of the week, during the day, and there was like 6 people in the theater, right? And we sat like in the 6th row back, right? We're like leaning way back, right? And the movie starts and the credits go, the words, and you get the little ship, from the rebel ship. And then the big Star Cruiser comes, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, the theater is just rumbling because of the sound system. And you're just going, oh my God. Anyway, so I was hooked right from there, right from get-go on Star Wars. Wonderful, wonderful world, wonderful thing. So anyway, so that's and I've been a fan ever since. So I'm just gonna go around the panel here. Kris, you're next down on my list, so welcome.
Hi. Star Wars was my first fandom. I was 7 at the time, and I don't remember my very first screening, but I remember being in love right from the start and watching it several more times, which is probably why I can't remember exactly the first time that I saw it. And I appreciated the simplicity of it, and I probably didn't understand all of the war overtones and the good versus evil and all that, but I do remember my mother really wanted to give me a feminist icon to attach to, so she got me a little teeny, is all we could afford, a little teeny figure of Princess Leia, and I was really disappointed because I wanted Darth Vader. Anyway, in my real life now, I have no other qualifications for being on this panel. Except for my love for Star Wars and the fact that I've actually seen The Mandalorian. I love it. I'm an urgent care physician in real life. So I was on one other pre-recorded panel about pandemics, because duh. So that's my story.
Okay, Mike.
Hi there. My name's Mike Rogers. I have been a fan, much like Kris, from an early age. I'm one of those first gen fans. I was 7 years old when I got to see it in the movie theater. My parents described the experience of it, of me just sitting there silently with my mouth hanging open for the 2 hours. And then the hour-long trip back home, not so quiet after that. So Star Wars has been a part of my life at an early age. It kind of pushed all the other ones off to the side and really became dominant for me for many years until Doctor Who came along a few years later for me. I enjoy Star Wars. I've enjoyed almost all the iterations of it. I haven't been as invested in some of the animated TV shows, but that have been on recently. But the Mandalorian has kind of pushed me to want to go back and watch some of those. So, and I signed up for the panel because I want to complain about too many Mandalorians on the Mandalorian. I'm just kidding.
Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Evenson. And like Kris and Mike, I was 7 years old when the commercials started coming on TV for this movie called Star Wars, and I thought it looked stupid. I had no interest in it whatsoever. It just looked awful to me. And my parents went to see it, and then when they came home from the movie, my mom said, "You're going to go see this movie." It's just no question about it. Somehow she knew, because yeah, just like Kris and Mike said, it was everything in the world for me for years after that, until right around probably Doctor Who in the early 80s. Yeah. And so I really kind of soured on Star Wars. I wasn't a prequel fan at all. And then I sort of really appreciated when the Force Awakens came out. I just thought that was brilliant. It was a great new start for Star Wars. And just around the time that I've now lost my taste for those movies, The Mandalorian is maintaining that high level of quality. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think The Mandalorian really has upped the quality again of the Star Wars universe as far as the storytelling is concerned. I mean, this is not a panel about the last 3 movies, so we won't go there. We won't go there.
Yeah, I kind of regret bringing it up because there's some people that hate it for really stupid reasons, and I don't know. Yeah, a terrible discussion about it.
So we will concentrate on the streaming service Mandalorian because I think it does do a lot of very good storytelling. The episodes are short, they're only 35 minutes or thereabouts. So, and there's only eight in a season, but they do get a lot of storytelling in those 35 minutes and 8 episodes. And I think that they've really, come around and brought the a good storytelling back into the world. So the time is set in between the fall of the Empire and the rise of the New Republic. Of the
First Order.
Thank you. The First Order. Yeah. So let's start with that. What do you think about the time it's set in and so forth?
I love it. I mean, that's what I wanted, right? That's what I wanted in 1983. As soon as I got home from Return of the Jedi, I wanted something set then. So I found it really disappointing how many things I had to watch or not watch that weren't set in that time period. So yeah, I love it. And it looks like Star Wars, because that's what Star Wars should look like. Star Wars should look like that time period in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Jon Favreau was going for specifically a time period that nobody was familiar with. And I very much appreciate that. I mean, it could have been any time frame. That would have been okay with me. But this one was one that had not been done yet. So I very much appreciated that.
And it, for me as a fan, it hits all the right buttons, right? Like Bill, you mentioned, it hits that nostalgic post-Jedi feel of, I'm curious what did happen after the Battle of Endor. How did things progress? And the setting, I think, is really fascinating too, because I think it gets into the genre of it. But you get very much a frontier feeling of it, that we're on the edge of order and lawlessness, right? Like the Empire has crumbled. You have the New Republic, but they, where most of the events of the Mandalorian happen, it really doesn't have a strong influence in that part of the galaxy, and so it's a bit of a free for all. So
well,
it feels
and the other thing I liked about the timing too is, when the Emperor was killed and the Empire fell, the Mandalorian shows that there are still stormtroopers out there, that there are still like Moff Gideon, there are still people that were part of the Empire. They didn't all just like curl up and die when the second Death Star was destroyed, right? I mean, there had to have been still bureaucracy out there and still parts of the Empire that existed, and this is showing that.
Mhm.
And the fact that things have gone to hell enough with the lack of order that the remnants of the empire are actually going to be appealing to some portion of the population. So it's not a given that the New Republic is actually widely accepted, or whatever the Republic is calling itself now, the Alliance. Yeah.
So let's just get right into the story. It starts out Mandalorian. You don't know much about him, his background. Although we did see some of it, early on, as far as his. Sorry, just muting my phone. But we know he was an orphan, but that he's a bounty hunter, and he goes out and collects people. So he's not, that's one other thing I like about the series is that there's a lot of gray areas in this series. Like I said, he is a bounty hunter. He's going out and collecting people and turning them in for money.
And the series not only shows him doing bad things and not necessarily hesitating to murder people, but also that it alludes to him having done much worse things in a previous time frame when he was with the mercenaries and so forth. So this is a dark hero, or is meant to be, at least at the beginning. He evolves, though. Probably touch on that later.
And cut very much in that similar kind of anti-hero type motif, like the classic Clint Eastwood Western, right? The lone stranger walks into the town and he's badass, but yet there's a piece of him that, is, he's the hero, but, he's a dark hero.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because that's really the appeal of the entire show to me, is that it is a Western. So you've got Star Wars is a combination of a Western and a science fiction show and a Japanese samurai vibe. Everybody knows this already, but George Lucas, of course, was heavily influenced by Japanese cinema. The first film is a more or less a take on a Kurosawa film, and so this series takes some of its, or at least the first series, season 1, I should say, takes as an influence the Lone Wolf and Cub series that I'm still meaning to watch, and I think that's what was most striking to me, was that Favreau decided to take it back to that foundation. I don't know. I think it's like the root of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's very logical as you say that, Bill, because if Star Wars is a blend of Western and samurai movie, and you take the Jedi out, really, for the Mandalorian, for most of the Mandalorian, what do you have left? So yeah, I think it made sense that he leaned into the genre of Westerns to try to set this series up.
And that, like you said, take the Jedi out. There was some appeal to that for me personally, at least, and for a lot of fans. Not to pretend the Jedi don't exist, but we've kind of seen a lot of the Jedi in the prequels, and I'd had enough myself.
Yeah.
And the cartoons. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to wait a while. Yeah.
But yeah, because there are other powers out there, in the galaxy. It doesn't, there are other things, other than this mystical Jedi thing, and the Mandalorians are one of them, apparently, and they were another, race of sort of, I don't know how to describe them, they're the way, right? And as we find out in the second series, there's the way that the Mandalorian was taught was not necessarily the way that other Mandalorian refugees know.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting things I think that happened in the second series, is to find out the Mandalorian might just be an extremist among Mandalorians. I think that's an interesting idea.
They were pushed into the evangelical or whatever sect of Mandalorian because they were so harshly persecuted and had to go into hiding. That's what I took from it with the tribe and the covert that he was part of. Very, very, very much, literally underground. They figured their way was the only way. Thank you very much.
Which again, Bill, that's one of the things. It was a great reveal, in the second series was that is not necessarily how all the Mandalorians are, and in fact, according to hang on, I'll get it. Hang on. Katie Sackhoff's character,
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, according to her, you guys are the exception.
You can kind of imagine the shock on his face, except you can't see it, of course.
Yeah, he has to express shock in a different way, doesn't he? Yeah.
Well, and it may be because I'm overly sympathetic as a viewer because I want to like it, but it seems to me that they do such a flawless, effortless job of having the Mandalorian emote behind a mask. Like, there's so many subtle things that I feel like I'm picking up on, and after a while, I kind of have to double check myself and go, oh yeah, I mean, this actor is behind a mask. I'm not really seeing his face, but yet he's conveying emotions and attitudes, and because it doesn't even hit my radar, I'm thinking that that they're working really hard to make it look easy, to make it look flawless, to keep me from noticing that.
Yeah.
To the point that some people online were disappointed when he took his helmet off this season.
Yeah,
they thought that he didn't do a good job in that scene. I thought he was great, but I think it's funny.
I'm sure
that's not what that character is to you, right? We all knew him with the mask on.
So which scene are you talking about? You talking about the scene where he has to go and interact with the council to find out where Moff Gideon is at that facility where they're doing the
well, he actually talks to. I assume that we're talking about the same thing, but he actually talks to Moff Gideon in the scene I'm thinking of. Yeah, right.
But not with his mask off. I don't think he ever has his mask off in front of Gideon.
No.
Oh, okay.
He does in front of Mig.
Oh no, it's right. It's a different guy. It's a different guy from the Empire. I'm sorry.
Right. Yes.
So I'm turning my video off.
It's hitting me. It's hitting me that throughout that scene in the mess hall of that facility, he has kind of a deer in the headlights look about him that is rather charming. It's not just that this predicament where he's trying not to blow the fact that he's not Imperial, but also that, oh my God, my helmet's off. it's kind of everything's hitting him at once. So
that's exactly right.
Cute. That was cute. Yeah,
that's exactly how I took that. Yeah, he doesn't even know how to behave with his helmet off.
Yeah.
The you're talking about I mean, obviously we can talk about his growth too, but Bill, you mentioned character growth. There's a lot of characters that have grown through this thing. I mean, his boss, right, Grief Karga, right, changed a lot, right? At first he was just the guy handing out the assignments, and then he was the guy that that Mandalorian had to betray, and so he sent his people out to get the Mandalorian, and then when the child healed him, then he changed again back to well, I'll help you, saving this kid, and then and so he's also a character that along with Cara Dune, right? When she came in, so the two of them are now starting to try and clean up the planet, a little bit. They're not necessarily attaching themselves to the New Republic, but they want to do what's right for the people of their planet. So both of those characters had character advancement, you know, I mean, and they're not the primary character. You know, a lot of shows don't do a lot of good character advancement with these secondary characters, but this one did.
Yeah, I appreciate how they've built not just a universe like in a physics sense, but in a character sense. Like we keep coming back to previous characters as they kind of weave in and out of the Mandalorian's story. And so I appreciate that. And I also like the twists of things as a fan that didn't occur to me, but again, are logical when I see it. Like in the case of Cara Dune and Grief, Karga, they have no interest really in the New Republic coming out and establishing a power base out there. They would rather self-govern, and there's this general attitude that if it's not one group, it's another group. You know, if it's not the Republic, it's the Empire, or vice versa. And it shocked me at first as a fan because, of course, you know, everyone wants the Republic because that's what I grew up on. But it made sense that these are just folks just trying to live their lives. And they're waiting for these superpowers to kind of wash over them. And okay, who do I have to deal with now?
And that's been a theme, you know, throughout too. You know, the theme about, you know, where he goes out with the armor, and that the mining collective comes in and takes over the town, right? And he has to go help them, right, get out from underneath them, right? So that's been kind of a theme. And Bill, you had mentioned that, you know, it's the Clint Eastwood, you know, character coming into town and you know, the Seven Samurai sort of thing, right? You know, coming in and helping out the town, getting, you know, overcoming these bad guys that have come in. It's been kind of a common theme to the show.
Yeah, they even did basically Seven Samurai in one episode, right? In the first season, they basically did that, like you said, the town, and they have to try and fight off the attackers. It just was that movie in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That episode, I thought that was very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Partly for that reason. It was almost like an episode of The Next Generation, oddly. It's the Sanctuary, is that the episode you're talking about with the widow and?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know the names.
That was the one where they're in the swamps. And
right.
Yes,
yeah.
and they have the Raiders have the Imperial Walker.
Yeah,
the ATST,
Yeah.
The Scout Walker, right?
Yeah. You know,
And really good
use.
use of that Scout Walker too. I'm sorry, but
No, yeah.
that's something that this show really seems to almost do effortlessly, is to just introduce something like that and then have that be the thing. Star Wars has a tendency to turn into gigantic space battles where I can't even tell what's going on, right? There's just so many effects, and that's all that's happening. But then an episode like that, where that's the only thing, or the first episode, I think, of the second season, is it, where they fight the Crate Dragon?
Yep.
That's the only thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of
talking about advancement, I mean, even IG-11, right? The droid, right? That Nick Nolte's character, right? Kuiil, you know, reprogrammed from being a killer bounty hunter droid to being a nursemaid droid, right? I mean, and those scenes where Kuiil is reteaching this droid even how to walk, I thought were great. I mean, he was really. There was just, you know, and then the droid is sacrificing himself sorry, spoilers, at the end of the first season, right? I mean, there was a lot of, I was really, you know, like, oh my God, don't do that. this guy's a good guy now.
Yeah, it's funny. 10-year-old me, who saw Empire Strikes Back and IG-88 and thought IG-88 looked so badass. Like, what a cool bounty hunter. And of course, it's just a prop standing there. I can't even remember for sure if the head moves or not. But then to see see it properly depicted, IG-11 in The Mandalorian in that first episode, it's like, you know, it puts shame to my 10-year-old awe of IG-88. It's like, oh wow, so yeah, this is really what it could have done had they had budget and all that kind of stuff. So it was. It just hit again all the right nostalgic points, but without being too self-indulgent. Like it mattered to me. Anyone who didn't have that same experience, it would just be, oh, there's this cool droid doing these, shooting all the bad guys.
Anybody else tear up a little bit as his metal starts to deteriorate a little bit, wading through the lava, going to get his doom?
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely,
no.
absolutely.
That's another great strength of Star Wars, in my opinion. People might be able to point to other things, but for me, Star Wars is the best of Star Wars is when it effortlessly gives you an emotional connection to these droids. Because that's what happened to me as a little kid. R2D2, he would have been my best friend.
Yep.
Had I not already had so many friends, because I was such a. But yeah, and to have IG-88, like you said, Mike, basically a stick on set. If it was a puppet, I don't even remember if the head turned. And to have us develop an emotional connection to that stick was fascinating.
Yeah.
Speaking of the IG unit and best friends, anybody else almost feel that Quill is their favorite character? Although I get, okay, Grogu, I think, all right, favorite character. But second favorite, most favorite character, I just love Quill. And Nolte's voice, of course, really brings it off. But I just bawled when that character was killed.
I didn't even recognize that was Nick Nolte at the time until the credits rolled.
Right.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Yeah.
I do because just his face, the way they did the face of the CGI. I said, that looks like Nick Nolte. I recognized him right away, and I'm like, and then the credits roll. That was Nick Nolte.
That's funny because I'm with Mike. I didn't recognize it, and I've gone back and watched it again, and I still don't hear it.
No.
But maybe I'm just not a big enough Nick Nolte fan. I don't know.
Now I am.
80s Nick Nolte. It doesn't sound like 80s Nolte at all.
No.
No.
No, because of course
nor would any other actor from the 80s.
Yeah. And what do you think about the whole, the bringing Boba Fett back in, and of course, I'm a big fan of Ming-Na Wen. I love everything she's done. I think she's super badass in the stuff she does. I loved her in Shield, right? Agents of Shield, and I loved her in the universe, right? Stargate universe and things like that. And I just love her little character just in this one too. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. What is it called? The something of Boba Fett, the spin-off, the limited spin-off series that they're planning for next year. It'll be really cool to see what she does to that.
It's called The Book of Boba Fett. I know.
That's
because
right.
I was watching it with my kids and they went, "Oh, it's a book?" And I said, "No, I think they're being." But what I loved about that little bit at the end was they brought back Bib Fortuna. I'm like, oh, look at that. It's Bib Fortuna. I wonder what he's been up to. This is going to be... Oh, he's dead. Okay.
How the hell
Damn, there goes another one.
Survived the barge assault? I thought everyone died in that. And there's Bib and there's Boba. How?
Yeah.
Was Bib on the barge? Was Bib on the barge?
Did he kind of just slink away? Maybe, yeah.
He's the kind of guy that would slink away.
He's
no
totally
doubt
the
in
kind of
my
guy. He was skinnier then; he could get away with it.
Well, they had those little ships around the barge. Yeah, he just got on one of those and took off.
Speaking of Boba Fett, I was never Don't hurt me or anything. I was never a fan of Boba Fett, and I admittedly did not see that part of the Star Wars Holiday Special, which was, I guess, probably the best part of the holiday special was that animated short.
That's why you didn't like that.
Right. I never saw what everyone else saw in him in the first trilogy. I thought it was stupid and a marketing gimmick, and he was never a favorite character of mine. And I just groaned when I heard that he was coming back because it kind of leaked, of course, for the Mandalorian. But now I really appreciate him. I like this version quite a lot, and I might even give the new series a chance. Although I'm probably more looking forward to the one that's simply titled Ahsoka. But
Yeah, the
You guys
Boba
think?
Fett thing was well. I read somebody online. I think it must have been was saying, yeah, we finally get to find out what happened to Boba Fett after he survived the attack or the what's the thing in
The Sarlacc
the
pit.
Sarlacc pit,
Sarlacc pit.
and I'm like, I haven't been waiting for that. He died. We assumed he died.
Thank you. Good riddance. Yeah.
But I didn't. I was a 10-year-old boy when I saw Boba Fett on screen, and in 1980, as a 10-year-old boy, I was required to love Boba Fett. So I see what you mean. I see what you mean about it, Kris. He's not great. He doesn't. And like Mike said, I don't know if you heard him. You didn't see the holiday special. That's probably the best Boba Fett there is. But yeah, no, there's really not much going on there. And essentially we're here to talk about a show that's almost based on that, right? The Mandalorian is basically Boba Fett. It's not a huge leap from just saying we're making a TV series about Boba Fett.
Pedro initially thought it was going to be Boba Fett until I guess Favreau set him to rights and said, no, we're going to make sure that it's actually, you can tell the difference. And they do have some subtle differences in the armor and stuff, even at first. So.
Well, and when I started watching the show, I thought it might be Boba Fett.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
that
Boba
probably
Fett,
helped draw people in.
Mm-hmm.
Boba Fett with the gaffy stick against the stormtroopers was a pretty amazing sequence in terms of an action sequence. The only thing that and it's not a big thing, so I mean it's not a turn off that I'm gonna stop watching or anything like that. It doesn't quite feel like this Boba Fett doesn't feel like the original trilogy Boba Fett. And again, it's all wrapped up in childhood memories too. But to me, the original Boba Fett was a mercenary. He was paid to do a job. And here he's much more noble. And he's on a quest to help save Grogu because he gave his word. And who knows, maybe being in the Sarlacc pit and going through all that might have changed the man too. That there is that possibility. But that would be about the only part for me that didn't quite ring true for his return, like just his generosity of spirit in this one. Having said that, the fanboy in me loved seeing him in it. So
that said, though, do we even know, is this necessarily the same Boba Fett that went down into the pit? Because remember, there are clones. And he was, remember, he was the basis of the whole clone army.
I can see your point, but I think I can definitely see it in the character that he spent 5 years probably just trying to survive and finally getting to the point where he might be able to get that dang armor back, and he hasn't really thought beyond that. Mm-hmm. I can see that grizzled former shell of his former self. I think he kind of turns a little bit too quickly into becoming noble. I'm not sure if that works for me, but dang, I love the actor, so I'll buy it. Sure.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because that's what Mike was saying, and that's how I felt about it too. It doesn't entirely ring true. And then cynically, of course, I look at it and go, "Oh, I see. We're just being set up for another TV show." And you can't have the other old Boba Fett. You've got to have somebody a little bit more interesting. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like it, and I did think it was a good idea to bring back the original actor, even though I'm sort of anti everything prequel. It at least makes sense to bring him back.
Mm-hmm. And Boba Fett was a gimmick back in 1979. I was part of that hook. Hey, send in this many proofs of purchase, and you'll get your Boba Fett action figure. And there's a holiday special about him, and he has 3 lines in the movie, I think, total in Empire Strikes Back. Yeah,
is it that many?
Yeah, it's that many. Yeah.
So it really, he really is cynically. He's just there for marketing.
When I think back on it, though, you do get the impression he's clever. He's the only one that follows the Falcon out of the garbage and stuff. So.
I thought the ship, Slave One, was actually a bigger star than Boba at the time. It is an odd-looking ship.
Definitely that. What do you think of the new droids? The new dark what are they called? The dark warriors or dark something like that? That Moff Gideon had on his ship. The
I thought they were great. I thought they were really intimidating and they seemed really powerful. And then they bring in a character who just cuts them down like butter. That's kind of the problem with the Jedi, right? You bring a Jedi in and then, oh, I see this is no real problem anymore.
The Dark Troopers,
Dark Troopers,
Luke
okay.
just mows them down.
Which actually
I was kind of suspecting who that was, but I was suspended for a few seconds going, oh, wow, that's a pretty good job of destroying those suckers. Yeah.
Which it harkens back to, I think, one of the original LucasArts games, Dark Forces, although it might have been one of the sequel games that came after it. There were Dark Troopers in there. And it's been a long time since I played those games. So I don't remember if they were purely mechanical or if there were people inside of it. But to me, that's one of the things that is good about the writing here. They end up like weaving in bits of non-canonical fandom, like video game references. I think there was one in like the second to last episode where they brought up a reference, I think from Battlefront, where in the video game storyline there, after the fall of the Empire, the Emperor has a pre-recorded message, and I think it's called Project Inferno, but it's basically, you know, burn the Empire as a way to like instill fear and to get people in line. And it's in the video game, and you hear reference to it from Migs in the shootout in the barracks, that this actually did happen. So there are like all these small touches that if you weren't aware of it, it wouldn't hit your radar. But if you had played a video game from like 20 years ago or 3 years ago, you're like, oh. And to a larger extent too, like these animated series, which I know, Bill, you've had like some reaction to, because kind of like myself, I have not watched much or enough of it to really pick up on all of the references. So I'm wondering.
Well, Ahsoka Tano is the big one there, I'd say, from the animated series. But I don't want to forget to reference that the Blurgs originated as creatures in the Ewoks TV movies, and also that Cheryl, the Witch of Endor, was later retconned to be a Night Sister like Ventress. And yes, I am reading this. Sorry.
Someone paid you to say that, didn't they?
The person who wrote it's laughing, and everyone else is going, "Oh." God. But it is the kind of thing they do.
There's a comment here in the chat about the dark saber, the black saber. It says, "What are the abilities of the black saber? Is it a true lightsaber, or is it fundamentally different? Also, since the Mandalorians tend not to be Jedi, how useful is it for defense against blasters? Since non-Force users don't have the Force sight to deflect blaster bolts."
Well, it's cool that it can cut anything except, I guess, Beskar, and it can defend you pretty well against a lightsaber, apparently. So since the ancestral, sometime enemies, the Jedi and the Mandalorians are enemies of each other, I guess that's useful. But there's only one of them, so.
And the Darksaber originated in which TV show? Was it? Is there anyone here who's pretty well versed in either the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels?
I was referenced in at least Rebels, because of that backstory. With, I think, Satine and Bo-Katan, and maybe someone else can clarify me on that, but it's probably also in some of the non-canonical. I think I might have seen a reference to it in one of the novels, and I haven't read that very many of the novels, but it was in there. And at the time I was going, oh, great, you know, yet another mystical relic that everyone wants, yay. It mentions in the chat, is it just like the Elder Wand that everyone is lusting for this object? And eye rolls. But I guess it has some usefulness, at least to symbolic value for the person seeking the throne on Mandalore. Okay, fine.
What was the thing in Splinter of the Mind's Eye? Did that turn out to be a gem that's in everybody's lightsaber eventually? What was that thing called? Mike, I know you know it. What is it called?
Well, actually, I don't know it. I've got the book, but it's been so long.
Well, what's the stone or whatever that's in every lightsaber?
Oh, Kyber crystal.
Kyber crystal.
Yeah, originally that was like a thing that they were hunting for in that book, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
So
A lot
again,
of the book,
follow
yeah.
on by the
probably.
Black
That makes
Saber about about it having to be one before you can use it. I mean, like the Elder One or whatever. Kris was saying. I don't know. Whatever.
I guess we know how you think about it.
Now that sounds Mandalorian. That part rang true, even if it's not absolutely true that it won't work if you don't win it. But it wouldn't be honorable in the Klingon / Mandalorian / samurai way of thinking.
So do you find the Mandalorian way to be somewhat Klingon?
Maybe not quite as bloodthirsty as that, but yeah, all these things kind of have a singular. Well, it isn't just samurai. I mean, I suppose there's a little bit of the Middle Ages knight concept behind both the Jedi and the Mandalorians and other groups of do-gooders that are out on quests. But yeah, it's fundamentally a very familiar tradition and way of thinking, which I think makes it instantly assimilatable to the audience. Even if you weren't versed in Mandalorians from Clone Wars, Rebels, video games, books, it's pretty easy to grasp that concept.
And
once you get past the unique armor.
Yeah, that's what I think that Mandalorian does really well too. Is that you're not required. There's no required reading beforehand. So you probably don't even have to know Star Wars to enjoy it. I wouldn't think.
I agree with that, Bill. Yeah.
Even down to the crafting of the units of the armor, which one of my favorite. Okay, my third favorite character is the armorer. I love that character. Emily Swallows, I think Swallow is the actress, who of course you never see because helmet, but she does carry it off very well, very dignified. This is her duty. She makes the armor. She is she's entrusted with the Beskar. Okay, and the singular duty and honor and craftsmanship that goes into every single little piece of armor I just found that delightful, and it helps cement kind of the traditions. And well, she is the keeper of the tradition in that tribe.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I completely agree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think it is the actors underneath those helmets? I remember there was some salacious rumor about Pedro Pascal storming off the set during the making of the second season, and I thought, what's he doing on the set? You don't need him.
No, they did need him all the time. So somebody was actually interested in talking about does it create pressure for the person who suddenly is this huge star and is in every single property known to man that's filming at the moment. He was, in fact, I think he was preparing for King Lear or something like that on stage. And during one of the episodes, he wasn't actually there at all. And it was his stunt double.
Well, I mean, James Earl Jones was never on set of Star Wars. Nobody thought anything of that.
So Larry Bartell, Larry says, apparently Stormtrooper armor can't stop blaster bolts, can't stop lightsabers, can't stop rocks, can't stop arrows, can't stop sharp sticks. What does it stop? I don't know.
Harsh language.
True. I was going to bring up the guy beating him up in Rogue One, but you're right. The Ewoks beat him up with rocks. So yeah, what is the point?
Well, and what kind of training do they get with their blasters? They hit the broadside of a barn.
That was an obvious reference. I like that.
Did anyone love that scene where the scout troopers on the speeder bikes are taking a little target practice while they wait to hear from Moff Gideon?
Yep.
And
yes,
they can't
that's
hit
what
it.
I was talking about. Yeah, can't hit anything. Yeah, I really liked that a lot. I thought it was just it could have gone over the top. You know what I mean? It's almost too knowing a reference, but it worked for me.
It worked very well. It worked really well. Yes, it worked well. There's a question here about, so it says, do you think Kylo Ren killed Grogu when he went and killed off of Luke's Padawans? There's been a debate in my household for a while now. Ha ha.
Yeah, there's no question. Kylo Ren cuts Grogu's head off, and get used to it.
That was the first thing my husband and I asked each other. It's like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, you know, somebody else asked earlier, I think, what do we think about the future of the series without Grogu, basically? And I think that's been the question that a lot of people have been asking. And I thought he could come back in the next episode. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe, you know, Bill, maybe it doesn't work out with Luke and he comes back. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, if you were the showrunner, Bill, which direction would you take it? Would you continue to bring Grogu back for the next season, or would you peel off and go in a different like arc, for example?
I just really think it works to have that character in there. I really would try to see if it would work to bring that character back. That's the when do we meet Grogu? Is it the end of the first episode, or is it in the second episode? I mean,
second episode.
Second episode.
No. That's the end of the first episode.
The very end, you see him.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
He opens the basket. That's right. The very end of the very end. Yes.
Yep.
And also cynically from a marketing perspective, right?
You
guys have seen the toys, I take it. You guys have baby Yodas in your homes.
My house is filled with them.
Yeah, but you knitted those. There we go. He's really a good toy. I mean, look at that thing.
I was gifted. Yeah, it's a nice bobblehead. I was gifted it at the same time as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But my two icons.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh no! And now
I think that they, I think that they could bring him back. I mean, because remember, Luke said, when he took him away, that Grogu had formed an attachment to the Mandalorian. And it may be that attachment is so strong that Luke feels he can't train Grogu. And that somehow Grogu comes back to the Mandalorian.
See, Grogu turns to the dark side and flips Kylo, and that's what ends up happening. So Grogu is alive in the future. He's just a hidden Sith there. Behind Palpatine. That's my sequel to The Rise of Skywalker.
Nice. Well, also he's too old, right? Too old to begin the training. Yoda would have said, because he's if my math is right, he's nearly the same age as or maybe a little bit older than all those of us that were 7 when Star Wars came out, right?
No. I mean, in fact, the client says that the package is 50 years old.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's 50. And maybe a little bit.
Well, that was last season, so I'm making him 51.
51.
Okay, so
okay, Bill, they just grow up so quickly.
They don't.
It's alluded to.
But remember, Grogu had a little bit of training early on, and then somehow left or something.
Well, he survived the purge, so who knows if he survives in the future, right? With Luke's Jedi training camp fiasco. We don't know. Which then means headcanon prevails, right? You can believe whatever you want, whatever makes, fills your fan canon head that makes you happy. That's where you go with it.
It could also be
that. I love that ambiguity. I like having space to decide for myself how it's going to go on some of these things.
There's a third possibility that Luke ultimately determines that the attachment is too strong, and Grogu's previous torture and difficulties are just too much for him. And no, not that he must be destroyed, that maybe he could set him aside and let the powers fade. I think that's unlikely, but that's a third possibility.
To me, it would feel like a cheat. Like if he shows up the first episode of the next season, oh yeah, didn't work out. Here you go. Here he is back. It's like you had this big, huge departure, full of emotion. Like, oh, JK, he's back.
Well, it's been said that the primary puppet cost $5 million to make. So I think he's coming back in some capacity.
Yeah,
So,
no, he'll be
okay,
coming
you
back,
let
but
down
it won't be right away in the first episode. So, I mean, first of all, you've got the whole story arc of going back, and helping, retake Mandalore, right? I mean, now they've got the black saber again,
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah,
the
there's a
arc for
big.
season 3.
That's if I was betting
Could
money,
be.
I think that's where it might be going.
But
Because
that's
there's
if
this
I was,
big, yeah, there's this
that would be
big
my bet too, Michael. Yeah.
there's this big
Yeah.
unsettled business between the Mandalorian and Bo-Katan, right? He wants to give her the dark saber, but he can't because she can't accept it that way. She has to win it in combat, or so she believes. So how are they going to resolve that? Or does the Mandalorian become the ruler and now he's at odds with her?
So first an unwilling
I-
parent and then an unwilling ruler. That would be cool. Yeah.
I don't think that character would he would definitely be unwilling. No, there's no doubt about that. No, that
Well, he
is
tried
not,
to
that's
get rid of
not-
that thing. Didn't
Oh,
he
yeah.
try 2 different ways? Like,
Yeah.
well, how about
At least.
He doesn't want it.
he doesn't
He
want?
might be stuck with it.
He also
Yeah.
realizes that his lifestyle, as it is now, is not good for a youngling at all, and has some realization. I'm sure Luke does that things will not end well in terms of the child's development if he continues to be exposed to so much death and violence.
Mhm.
Oh, not that there's not death and violence in the Jedi training. Come on, you saw Luke, go wading through the dark soldiers or whatever it was.
But he didn't bring the younglings with him.
The youngling was there watching.
And how
Yeah.
many eggs did Grogu eat? I think he's already a dark character.
That's why he comes back. Luke is like, he just keeps eating all the other.
There were
That
some
would be
hints of
funny.
some serious badness. There was the frog lady's eggs, and then there was the where Mando and Cara are arm wrestling, and suddenly he tries to force choke Cara, and that was a huge shock for many fans, I guess.
What do you think about there's a prop I really want to talk about this. The new Beskar spear that he has. What do you think of that prop? I think that's such an incredible, cool thing.
I like that it doesn't exactly have a name, and it's not a mystic symbol. Thank you. But it's also very useful, and that's exactly the way Mando uses it. He's a very pragmatic guy, and this thing is very useful. I think he's going to keep it.
Plus, we need to establish a new ship for him, I would assume, for the new season as well, because the Razor Crest is just a pile of Legos now.
It's been a pile of Legos the whole 16 episodes. It's been a pile of Legos. What are you talking about?
Yes, but it was still flew, and now it is no more. I exclaimed in horror when that thing got shot down. It's like, no, there goes another character.
There were tears in my household. My daughters, teenage and adult daughters, were watching it with me, and there were tears when the Razor Crest met its fate.
So yeah, he is going to have to find another ship for sure. And it'll be interesting to see, where he finds it. I mean, does he go back to Tatooine and talk to the
Heli, I think is their name.
I'll tell you what, I know a spaceship
play-
a spaceship in Star Wars that's changed owners a few times, and I don't know if you could really say definitively what's the line of ownership from Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. And
good point, Bill.
Maybe there's a ship out there for Mando.
Cheap piece of junk, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm thinking a piece of junk. Might not look like much, but
she's got it where it counts.
0.5 fast light speed.
Anyone who's had a junker car, though, I must have been just laughing with that scene where the door is coming open and it doesn't open all the way and pieces are falling off. It's so much like, you know, the bungee cording your hood down or duct taping your crushed bumper. I just love that.
It
Well, you know,
again
the thing of it
harkens
is, you
back
know,
to Han Solo banging on the Falcon in Empire Strikes Back. It's
you
the
know, the
same.
thing of it is you know, but the Falcon is not. I mean, that ship design was a common ship design in the, you know, for traders, you know. So even if it wasn't the Falcon, there are ships like that out there, you know, that could be, you know, that could use the same sets.
A YT, whatever it is, freighter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corellian freighter. Yeah.
The Razor Crest, was that the actual, like the brand name of that style of ship?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
was it the actual name of the vessel? I was a little bit confused on that.
The first episode, the guy that he freezes in the thing, he sees it and he says, "Is it a Razor Crest?"
Right.
So yeah.
Right. I think it's just the brand name.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a Hyundai, you know, it's not the
Or
greatest, but it's
an
recognizable.
RT. Yeah, or an R2 unit.
Yeah.
It's a friend.
Right,
It's a
yeah.
kind.
What do you think about the, you know, again, we only have a few minutes here, so no, I'm just gonna, so we already talked a little bit about where we think it's going. You know, I like some of the things that they brought back. You know, they brought the prisoner Miggs Mayfield back from that you know, episode where he was breaking, you know, trying to break out that prisoner out of the prisoner camp, and now he's got to break Miggs out of another prisoner camp. You know, I like some of the things where they keep they do find out circulating things around. So
I'll say this: I like the way they do it. They do it on purpose. They do it in the fiction, at least. There's a reason for it. Star Wars hasn't always been really good at explaining why they keep seeing these same characters over and over again.
Right.
yeah. No, there was a good reason for that one. You're right. You know. One that's something about Pedro's popularity, because he's been doing a lot of stuff now. Do you think we're going to get kind of burned out on Pedro?
Nah. That's the token member
Pedro's
on the
gonna
panel with ovaries. No, he's good for a while.
Do you think we're going to, you know, I mean, again, you know, it's, like I say, they're not long, you know, and they only, you know, there are only 8 of them in the season, so I don't think that this is going to impact him too terribly much. Although, Bill, it would be interesting to see if that you said that rumor was true, where he just walked off the set one time. You know, I don't know.
Other than the physical fighting scenes, I think this is very much different than many other roles he'll ever have, in that it's such a restrained physical presence. In fact, I guess I didn't know this before, but in preparing for the panel, I read that every motion that you make in the suit kind of gets amplified because of the nature of the suit. So he actually has to restrain himself even more, really minuscule gestures and tipping of the head and so forth. So this is dramatically different than most things he'll ever play again. That and the just totally identifiable armor. This is something entirely of its own, I think. Feel free to disagree with me.
Oh no, I agree. The armor is almost a character. I mean, it really is. I mean, because, you know, when the very first, you know, when the armorer keeps giving him new pieces, right? The new pauldrons, and then the new breast and back plate, you know, and she keeps upgrading his armor for him, right? And then gave him the jetpack, right? You know, as he does more and more stuff, you know, that's cool. You know, she upgraded his armor for him. So I agree with you, Kris. I think that the armor is almost another character.
And that plays so much like a video game. That's so video game like. And I wonder again if that's just like a conscious decision to kind of like just pick at those fanish elements, you know, for us as fans, because who hasn't played a Star Wars video game at some point, whether successful or not, or how deep you've gone into it. So
Sorry, I don't play video games.
Is there a Lego Mandalorian video game?
I don't think so.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But...
Give him time, Bill. Give him time.
All right. Any last comments? Because we are running out of time here. Anything, Kris? Any last words you want to say?
I started getting distracted. Instead of reading about plot synopses, I got distracted reading about just the technological aspects of how the show was made. And I guess it spawned, it's not exactly a whole new technological technique, but a combination of various techniques where the actors apparently, the system is called stagecraft. So there's a video wall, actually 360 degrees video wall, that is playing the environment while the actors are acting. And many times they don't even have to do much tweaking in CGI afterward. And it's created a revolution and probably cheapened up things for them a little bit now that they developed the system, because they don't have to go in afterward and tweak the lighting as much. And it really helped with like the lights coming off of the armor, which would have just been a nightmare to fix in post-visualization. And it was easier for the actors to act off of it. I thought I'm going to read more about that, how that was created, because I think that's just fascinating. As someone who wanted to run away and work on ALM in her teenage years, I just find that stuff wonderful. So we're going to hear more about stagecraft. Yeah.
Mike.
I would say if you enjoyed The Mandalorian and you haven't watched some of the other animated TV shows like Rebels and Clone Wars, to give those a try, because there's a lot, and I'm speaking as someone who hasn't seen it, but my daughter is immersed in them, and watching her reaction as she watched The Mandalorian made me want to go back and actually like see those and find more of those connections. So I would say if anyone else is in the same boat as me, where you're curious, I think that's where I'm going to head next, and I'd encourage other people to give those shows a try too.
Bill.
I got nothing to follow that. I'm looking forward personally to the Disney Plus series that are to come. The Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka, and the Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Or is it called Kenobi? I can't remember what anything's called.
And a Lando Calrissian one too, which I think will be.
Oh, that's right. See, I
Yeah.
really like Solo, so I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I did too, Bill. And another topic. Okay, so if you're currently watching this, please like this video and subscribe to our video page. Council Room is happening virtually January 15th to the 17th. Find out all the things that are happening by visiting our webpage, www.council-room.com. I want to thank all of my panelists, Kris Coulter, Michael Rogers, Bill Evenson, for being on the panel with me. And I want to thank our tech crew for helping us out. This is Don Kaiser. I've been your moderator. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the convention.